Here.
Breeze. Halter.
Here.
Hermes.
Here.
Walther.
I'm sorry, I guess I responded before. I thought you said Walter before.
Said Halter.
I'm sorry.
She does these in alphabetical
I'm
order.
still here. I'm still here.
Walterman.
Here.
Well, it's 5 of us, that's enough to get going. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a few open items here that the council has identified through their process of review. And we need to come to a decision. So much like the couple items we approved, and handed out, we need to get through this and before we can vote on the whole thing. There'll be 2 votes, Jeff, if I'm not mistaken, a vote on the new zoning map and a vote on the new zoning code, both as ordinances.
Yes.
So right now, what we're trying to do is take what the planning commission gave us and get it into a state where we are ready to consider it as an ordinance. Okay?
Tonight.
So, well, I'd like to get through as much of this, and if we can get through all of it tonight, that's fine. If we find that we can't, we won't, and we'll take it up again another night. But, you know, for some of the things that that are going on with the National Historic Landmark designation, I know that our consultant, Ms. Sullenberger, would like to get the code finished and approved by council as soon as possible for her work. And I would caution you all to remember that I don't think we're going to come up with a perfect document, not something so complicated. We're not going to be able to make everybody happy. And that includes the 6 members of council, and it certainly will include some of the members of the community. But I think what we have to remember that the zoning document is sort of a base expectation in most cases. There are always going to be some unusual situations, you know, as far as what's a side yard, how high a fence can you put in a side yard versus a rear yard versus a front yard. You know, there are going to be some yards that are just in strange configurations where the general, you know, the general reading of the code doesn't exactly fit, and that's why we have a board of zoning appeals. Okay?
This was announced as a work session, though, was it not?
Yeah, well, it's a special meeting.
It says work session on the agenda.
Yeah,
It's a work session.
Would you clarify that for us? Because there was an issue that on voting, and according to Kathy, you're not voting on legislation, you're just agreeing
You're just
to
reaching a
make
consensus.
changes.
No, I know that, but Fred's talking about,
Oh.
No, I'm not talking about trying to consider any ordinance tonight. We don't have an ordinance in front of us. We're trying to get these details sorted out so we can begin that whole
we can
ordinance
vote on consensus, we just
consideration.
can't pass any legislation.
Yeah, right. We're not trying to pass legislation tonight. No, not a chance, not a chance. All right,
Should we start?
please.
Okay. I provided you with a sheet, kind of a worksheet that I had sent to both Jeff and Todd to get through some of the issues that we've talked about. The first 3 items on there, you've already decided to make those changes. So let's drop to the 3rd one there, though, because there is this outstanding question that I sent to Jeff on the Village Center District. We've already taken out the properties on the west side of Winton and the golf course, but there's still some concern about the commons. You know, what are the protections for the commons? I guess the suggestion was, do we need to remove it? believe so, but maybe could you address that for us?
Well, I think the ultimate protection for the commons is in the charter already, so it doesn't matter, well, I mean, it matters, but, I mean, the charter specifically says, under the powers of council, you know, there's a whole list of the powers of council, but there's a provision in here that says council shall not have the power to vacate the public use of the commons area. So, you can have this village center district and with all of the regulations, but remember, your charter is always going to prevail over your zoning code. And it says right in the charter that council does not have the power to vacate the public use of the commons.
Is there any additional protection though by having that being reinforced here?
Well, it would be nothing more than reinforced.
Well, I was gonna say, it really doesn't reinforce because it's a subordinate document.
Okay.
Sure.
Right. I mean, it sometimes you could say that it's helping to clarify or reaffirming, but the fact is, the charter says you can't vacate the public use of the commons. So you could have in your zoning code that you're allowed to build apartment buildings on the commons, but you're not. You don't have council doesn't have the authority to do that.
But we wouldn't want anything inconsistent, right? I know you're taking it to an extreme to make a point, but.
Right. I mean, you probably wouldn't want anything inconsistent because then it just, it's confusing and it invites question. But if the question is, are there protections for the commons, it's right back to really the document that controls everything.
The commons is the only public area so protected by the charter, correct?
Well, what the charter says is the council shall not have the power to amend any of the provisions of the zoning code with respect to the Greenbelt district, which you're not. Council shall not have the power to vacate the public use of the commons area, and council shall not have the power to permit any change of use of the golf course without submission to, and you can put it to the vote, to the electors, but that's what it says. You can't change the zoning code on the Greenbelt district,
Greenbelt Commons and golf.
Greenbelt Commons and golf course.
So in other words, the zoning of the commons is not going to change into city center. It's going to remain on the farm
No,
one.
that's not at all what it says.
Basically, what they're saying, I understand, is it's moot.
Even if it was in the village center,